Oh, minion soldier, you painfully obvious mouse and keyboard user, blah, blah, blah. You're lacking combat skills and you're making videos about piracy. I read that comment and I just laughed. I just almost rolled off my chair laughing. It's still funny. It's still funny. Why don't you use joysticks? Why don't you use the dual T16,000s? Why don't you get the HOTAS, the Warthog, blah, 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 blah. And the truth of it is any one of these options is available to me, affordable and purchasable today. Why don't I do it? Well, I'm going to kind of illustrate it right here. This is me in an Anvil Arrow. Now, recently I made a video where I talked about I definitely have to bone up on my combat skills, and certainly shooting at satellites and NPCs in Arena Commander or in the game really isn't exactly a test of skill. It really, really isn't. But chasing down players, well, that could be a test of skill. But here we kind of come to a point where I have to confront one of the biggest problems that I have with fighters, which is we're chasing down this person and they are last seen at Delamar. So we are now after them. But things are going to change. Now I'm going to cut out a large portion of that quantum travel because watch what happens here. I'm sorry to anybody who's a fan of quantum travel. I know you're out there, and sorry for removing the most exciting part of the game out for you. But yeah, whoops, he just went behind me. He's actually all the way back at Crusader now. And I am in a peculiar situation because I'm about to come out of quantum just outside of Delamar. And you could say, well, you could stop your quantum drive and just turn around and go the other way now. You can do that now. You just power off your engines, power them back on, boom, go in the other direction. Well, I can't because I don't have the fuel, because fighters don't carry enough fuel. Well, okay, if you were to pick very specific quantum drives, then you could have enough fuel to get there and get back, but then you're pigeonholed into kind of making a very specific choice. But it doesn't just stop with the quantum drive. That pigeonholing actually it extends into many different facets of the game, because remember, right now you can get into any ship with any type of armor, but in the future that's not going to be true. In fact, in a fighter like this, or in something like a Gladius, which we'll get to in a minute, you're going to be limited to probably a flight suit and a basic sidearm. You're probably not going to be able to carry food or water with you, and all these things that you may be used to carrying with the heavier suits of armor. So as you can notice, my food and armor are a little bit, my food and water are a little bit depleted right now, or blood possibly. Some people will get that joke. But now I have no choice. I have to go to Delamar. I have to get food. I have to get water, and I have to get fuel. And there are ways to kind of combat that. There are ways to kind of mitigate that. Some of which, just changing out your quantum drive for another quantum drive. But then again, you come to the limitation of you're not able to cross the solar system as quickly as you want to. Now, what does this have to do with, owning or not owning a HOTAS or dual T16,000s or something like that? And well, let's think about it. A fighter like this, or a fighter like the Gladius, what's the prevailing wisdom in the community right now as to your control interface? Well, it's dual joystick, right? Dual joystick is the way to go. Get them two T16,000s. By the way, here's my link to Amazon where you can buy them right away. Of course. But what if you don't intend to fly a Gladius or an Arrow, or a Buccaneer for that matter? What if you intend to fly something, a little bit more sizable? Do you need dual joysticks for that? Well, they can work for that, but are they really what you want for something like that? Or are you going to be aiming for something else? And then you go, well, maybe the Warthog. Yeah, the Warthog's got a lot of cool features to it, and the Warthog comes highly recommended. The people who own it generally come around and say, oh, it's the best, you got to get it. And there are a lot of pluses to it, but it doesn't come with a twist, so you would have to get rudder pedals. No big deal, but that's a thing. Or you could go ahead and get the X56, which is a lot cheaper, but it has some issues. Apparently some of the top buttons on the joystick are a little bit difficult to get your fingers around, and yeah, some of the controls aren't exactly ideal. I've watched a few videos of people talking about that, but it does come with a twist, so you could eliminate the rudder pedals technically. You know, you start asking a lot of questions, and you start thinking about what kind of ship do I want to fly, you know? And the truth of it is for the most part, the ships that I fly, mouse and keyboard right now, frankly, is sufficient. Well, it's not really entirely mouse and keyboard. Currently, I use a Logitech G13 and, you know, a Razer MMO gaming mouse for my setup right now, which I know people will be like, that's not ideal. But it is sufficient. It works. And, you know, it does the job that it's supposed to do. And I guess I could fine tune it, and I could go, oh, I can move these keybinds around. But really, I just kind of use my keybinds to, in a way, to kind of keep every release of Star Citizen more or less the same. So I just have to change a few things. And even though CIG changes the keybinds, there's still commonality from patch to patch to patch for me. I just have to move a few letters around on my little mini keyboard, and I'm good to go. And it has a little joystick on it that I use to control vertical and horizontal flight, so it's pretty alright. Now, the truth of it is yeah, my combat skills do deserve a little bit of polishing up, and you might be looking at the screen right now and saying, what's with the Gladius? Well, you may remember that there was a Gladius sale all the way back in 2014, I think July 2014. It was right after they did the first sale where they showed us the images of the Xion Scout or Xenon Scout or Xerox Scout or however you're supposed to pronounce it. I know that if you mispronounce it, you offend like 10 people and they never let you hear the end of it. But I was really pro this fighter when it first came out, and I kept it. I purchased it, I kept it, and it has been tucked away onto the Not Minion Soldier account, and that's the end of that topic. But I do get out there and I do use it. Now, of course, if you're seeing me in a Vanguard Warden and I'm just circle strafing a dead satellite, yeah, you know, that's going to look a certain way. And am I still a mouse and keyboard user to this day? Yeah, I am. And that's because I've never been able to sufficiently answer the joystick question. But when I face, the need to get like a dual T16,000, I say, oh man, I should be a better dogfighter. I always come back to this problem of like, why? I'm probably, once I get to the persistent universe, I'm going to do the same thing that I just did in this video with the Gladius and I just did with the Arrow. I'm going to look at the fuel requirements to get where I want to go, and I'm just be like, what am I doing? And I think that is the unfortunate inheritance of the persistent universe over Squadron 42. As a fighter jock, Squadron 42 sounds like an amazing, amazing game. You're going to just have so much fun, because you're going to be flying around with all the facilities needed to support a fighter. But in Star Citizen, that gets removed. Now, some people say, oh, no, I have a friend with an Idris. Yeah, but is your friend going to be online and be in the place that you want them to be all the time? Because remember, like, that is going to be a person who's going to want to do their own thing and play their own game and, pursue their own goals. Are they always going to be where you need them to be? And a lot of people, they kind of dance around it, but I think a lot of people are kind of cluing into the fact that fighters aren't a bad idea because fighters are bad. I think that for me, at least, fighters are a bad idea because the way the game is built to support them is just bad. If Star Citizen had been built in the kind of the idea of the hyperdrive from Star Wars type idea of travel, where an X-Wing can go from Scarif or from Yavin to Scarif and then back all the way to Yavin in time to fight the Death Star, then fighters would seem like a lot more appealing. I'd be after something that allows me to, that gives me better feel of combat, where I have to modulate my throttle and I have to look for position and things like that. But the problem is that Star Citizen really is not looking like it's heading towards being that kind of a game, and I'm looking towards bigger and bigger ships for my thrill. And now, One of them did arrive recently, which is, of course, the Mercury Star Runner. But I'm sure a lot of you can guess the ship that I really am waiting for. To be perfectly honest, if you were to look at a ship like the Corsair, for example, could you control this decently with dual joysticks? Certainly. Absolutely. Could you control it sufficiently with mouse and keyboard? Probably. It wouldn't be the best. I think we can all agree that many of us kind of look at mouse and keyboard and think, maybe it is time to get the HOTAS. I'm sure that's an internal thought in a lot of mouse and keyboard users, but a HOTAS might be more what a ship like this requires. This is kind of where I want to spend most of my time in Star Citizen, a ship that has options. And to be perfectly honest, I mean, even to this day, even years later, and I've been debating this internally for years, since I made videos about it a long time ago. But I keep kind of looking at different options, and sometimes I've been known to think a little bit out of the box when it comes to certain things, and that question has not been answered yet, but it's a possibility. It is definitely a possibility. I could turn around and I could buy that tomorrow, but would it work, and would it work for me? I don't know, because I'm still there's a part of me that looks at the combat in Star Citizen. I know we're having a big combat summit, and I know that CIG is always kind of uncomfortable with things. When I look at combat in Star Citizen, and especially, the combat, the dogfighting of fighters right now, and I see what people, are kind of aiming towards, I look at it from a more analytical point of view. And if ships slow down too much, if you bring the combat in too close, then you end up with circle strafing, which is, where we quote unquote don't want to be. But then again, if you speed ships up, when you give all that power to the main thruster, you end up with jousting, which is once again where we don't want to be. And so CIG is kind of trapped between these two versions of combat that they really don't want to exist in the game. And they're trying to find that happy medium, and they might do something in the near future that kind of flips that equation on its head. And that is like a question that I'm still asking, which it kind of makes me a little bit uncomfortable with the idea of investing in an expensive piece of hardware, not knowing where CIG is going to go. Now, ultimately, things may fall fairly close to where they are now. In that case, there are many options open to me, but it is something that I'm thinking more and more about these days, and certainly polishing up my combat skills is something that I have spoken about recently that I am after. But the truth of it is that as of right now, I'm still undecided.
Thank you for watching. So if you want to keep up with the latest and greatest in Star Citizen and Squadron 42's development, please follow us on our social media channels. See you soon.